Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our tactical breakdown series, our show in which we look at the players that have been linked to Arsenal, break them down in an analytical and statistical way with the help of some expert insight as well. For today's show, we are going to be looking at Yuri Alberto, the international striker from Brazil, one of the more prospective signings of Arsenal's summer windows, and certainly one that I think with all the players that we look at towards the end of the spectrum where these shows come in really handy, because I'm not sure many people know too much about this guy. I didn't know too much about this guy before actually going in and looking into his game and his play style and seeing what he's like, and obviously hearing from our experts as well. Speaking of which, that is where we start off the show. But before we do, please make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are doing these in-depth, deep dives into all of Arsenal's transfers. Try saying that 10 times when you're drunk. Into all of Arsenal's transfer targets this summer. So if you want to get educated on who they are, what they're about, where they're from, how they might fit into the Arsenal team, then this is the show for you. So make sure you please do drop a like and subscribe if you are in fact new to the channel. And speaking of which, I was also going to say, if you would like to help support the channel, you can, just like Josh Ivins has in the chat here. Sign up and become a member and help support things that go on, help with the software, hardware, and everything else. But thank you, a massive thank you to Josh there for signing up and helping to support things over at TGT. But without further ado, let's crack on with our expert insight. I am very happy to be joined once again, as we are focusing on a guy from Brazil, to be joined by Vinicius Furlan, who is a fantastic guy. I love this guy's positive energy. You're going to see what I mean in a minute. He's just great. I just love Vinicius's energy when he talks about Brazilian players. He's helped us previously with Gabriel Magalhaes. He's helped us out with Bruno Guimaraes as well, who's obviously we didn't end up getting and went to Lyon. And he's just a great guy. So let's listen to what he's got to say. If you want to find him on Twitter, you can. His handle is in the description. Without further ado, let's hear from Vinicius.
Hey guys, how are you doing? Happy to be back. My name is Vinicius. Well, thank you so much for receiving me once again. I'm here now to talk about Yuri Alberto, a great striker from Brazil who recently was linked with Arsenal. And my time now is to come here and tell you guys, please hope this goes through, because Yuri is a very physical striker. I think he can suit Arsenal very well. He can really do well in the Arsenal team. I don't think he's going to be a starter right over. So he's more like a group guy. He's more like a squad guy for, I don't know, 6 months time, 1 year time. But in 1 year time, in 2 years time, he can really be really good. He's as good as Martinelli. He's big, better. He's more composed. He's very physical, as I said it. He's very technical too. So he's a guy you want to have in your team, right? In situations between, I don't know, let's get an example for you guys. And a game against Aston Villa, away from home, you need a goal, you need a ball in the area, aerial threat. It's him. He's an aerial threat. He's a very nice and well-rounded guy, even though he's just 19 years old. Well, he was recently linked with my team, which is Atlético Paranaense here from Brazil. Well, he's a great striker. He's a great striker. He's a potential number 9 for the national team of Brazil. I guess he's a little bit better than Gabriel Jesus, which is the number 9 right at this moment. Well, he's better than most of the guys who Tite has called in the recent call-ups. That's another aspect. I guess he can really do well at the Premier League. I love him so much. When he was at Santos, he was a great striker at the under-19s. He was even better when he was an under-17. He recently has been linked with Arsenal, with Roma from Italy, with another Premier League clubs, which is the best league in the world. But I guess he can really develop at Arsenal. He has the right guys beside him with David Luiz. I don't know if he's gonna stay at Arsenal. Willian, I don't know if it's gonna stay at Arsenal, but having Brazilians on your team, it's easier for these guys who have an age a bit short. He's 19, 20 years old, to develop to his full potential. So Yuri Alberto is a great cup for Arsenal. I think about 15 to 20 million euros will be enough. He's a great prospect, one of the best prospects around. Well, as I said it, I wasn't wrong, man. I wasn't wrong in the previous videos that I did for you guys at the Gooner Talk. I talked about Gabriel Magalhães, who is now at the Olympic national team for Brazil, which is a starter for Arsenal. I gave the information way back that he was negotiating with you guys. Bruno Guimarães, which is in national team also, is a great player, one of my best idols in the last few years. Well, be hopeful, because Yuri Alberto is a great striker. Well, guys, thank you so much. My English is a bit rusty. I'm sorry for the delay on this video, but I want to thank Gooner Talk once again for calling me up. Well, guys, I'm right here. My Twitter account right here too. If you want to have some questions, want to talk about English football, Brazilian football, and always when a Brazilian is linked with Arsenal, they come to me for a quick talk. So I'm right here, guys. Thank you so much. Rest in
Much appreciate the information there, Vinicius. As I said, he's just like a great guy. I love his energy. It's great. And obviously you can find Vinicius on Twitter. Link is in the description. To find him, as you said, you can DM about any links to any Brazilian footballers that you want to get any info on. He'll tell you. He actually was one of the first people to break the story that Arsenal were in for Gabriel Magalhães, who I always pronounce wrong, way back when. He was one of the first people out in Brazil to reveal that information. So had that contact since then, and he is obviously a massive fan too of Yuri Alberto, and you can easily see why, because if you have actually seen, and you should go out and watch some of the highlight reels of this guy, because they are impressive, and the fact that Vinicius rates him so highly that he's looking at him saying he should have been in the Brazilian side this summer for the Olympics, maybe even for the Copa America tournament, and he's surprised that he wasn't in there actually for the Copa America team. He is a really impressive guy, and he's doing some really good stuff. And we're going to go into some of his statistics now, as well, as we always like to do. We kick off the show with our expert insight, but then we go into our player comparison and statistical focus, and we finish off the show with getting your thoughts in the chat box. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video, because we will be answering plenty of your questions about him at the end. Before we go into the stats, I should let you know about his injury record. It's completely clean, so you don't need to worry about anything in regards to that. Everything on Transfermarkt that came back was empty. Nothing there. No reports of injuries. Fantastic to see. Let's kick off with the stats then and go through these. So first of all, what we thought we'd compare him to is it's not for me a point to compare him straight away with Aubameyang and Lacazette. It's not the area. It's not the part of the field. It's not the part of development that I'm really interested in seeing how he compares. We always compare to players that are at the club in the same kind of development stage. So Nketiah, Martinelli, those types of guys were the best types of kind of comparisons there. And also a young player that we've also been linked to in Thiago Tomás, who was at the under-21s international European Championships for Portugal this summer and got to the final. Didn't quite win. Germany managed to beat them in the final, but he had a decent tournament, had an impact at times, but as a really good season for Sporting. We've actually done a tactical breakdown on him as well, because we were linked to him in the past, so you can find that on the channel too. But let's see how they first of all stack up in regards to heat maps. Now, the thing about these four players is because they are still so young, they are getting irregular amounts of minutes on the pitch, and you may have to squint your eyes a little bit to try and see where you can see any bits of intensity in those heat maps. I'll talk you through it if you are struggling to see it. On the left-hand side, we've got, obviously, in the top left-hand corner, we've got Yuri Alberto. More of the intensity is skewed out a little bit to the left. And Nketiah has barely played at all, but you do see some intensity, slight intensity in the box more than anywhere else. Martinelli is, again, more to the left-hand side because he has played out as more of a left winger for Arsenal, more so than a central striker, although he has played a couple of games at central striker against like Fulham, etc. And Thiago Tomás is more so, even though thought of as a future striker, again, skewed out to the right-hand side before you can see him in that position, and maybe you'll see him more transfer into a central striking role. But the heat maps, They haven't played too much, and you have to think about the Brazilian league runs yearly. It's not across years. It runs by 2020 year, 2021 year, etc. And they've only played a few games so far this season. I think seven games in the top league or so far this season. So that's why the heat maps aren't as intense as you might expect for some of the other players that we've looked at. If we look at their goals per 90, these are the league statistics across and compared to their XG. So if what you're seeing here is if their goals per 90 is in and around and similar to their XG, they are scoring what you'd expect them to. They're taking the chances that they're seeing fall to them. If it's above their XG, they're outperforming that and they're scoring shots that you wouldn't expect typically to take. That's where you really find the top level strikers. Their goals per 90 is outperforming their XG. And then you've got the strikers that see their numbers fall below their XG, which is usually mean they're not taking the chances that they should probably score from the chances that they're getting. Yuri Alberto is pretty much dead on, 0.52 to a 0.53, which is good for a player of his age, 20 years of age, and nearly basically on point with what you'd expect him to be scoring. Thiago Tomas is slightly below at 1.17 to 0.28. Eddie Nketiah is ever so slightly above as well. He's scoring the chances that you'd expect him to take, but his goals per 90 at 0.37 aren't very high, lower than Yuri Alberto's in this case. Ironically, Martinelli has one of the highest XGs at 0.53, but his chances that he's getting, he's not taking too many of them, at 0.28 goals per 90 in comparison to that. And I think that's a lot down to him still developing, the fact that he still needs to improve his composure. I mean, Vinicius, in our expert insight there, said that Yuri Alberto is more of a composed figure in front of goal than what Martinelli is. And so that is proven in his goals per 90 compared to his XG statistics, which ironically, him and Yuri Alberto share the exact same XG, but Alberto is coming out a lot better than Martinelli currently. But he is playing in more of a central striking role, but he has played in wider areas as well if you go and look at his positional play. If we have a look at where the shots are being taken from, if we look at Martinelli first in the bottom right-hand corner, he has played on the left-hand side, which means a lot of his shots are being skewed to the left-hand side of the box. Thiago Tomas, more of his shots are being skewed to the right-hand side of the box because that's where he's played on the pitch more. And then you've got Nketiah and you've got Yuri Alberto, where you see more of their shots are for more of a range on the inside middle section of the box because they're playing more games in the out-and-out striker role, leading to those shots. Thiago Tomas has got a few goals this season. Martinelli's got a couple. Well, obviously, he scored the one against away from home. It was where we beat Sheffield United, and he came in the box, scored basically on the line, and the one, of course, away at Crystal Palace right at the end of the game. And Yuri Alberto's got a few goals, and Eddie Nketiah has popped up with a couple against West Ham, and of course the more recent one we saw against Fulham right at the end to save the points as well. But in regards to how their shooting is, Martinelli's coming out with the most shots per game at 2.66 in comparison to the others. Yuri Alberto is next highest on our list with 2.22, but he does have the highest shot accuracy at 47.1% on our list. And Nketiah coming out with the lowest in regards to shot accuracy with 36.4, but it's actually Thiago Tomas that has the lowest shot frequency at just 1.89 per 90. Going into touches into the box, this is where Yuri Alberto doesn't really have the high intensity times of touching the ball in the area as much as the players that are in comparison. Whether or not this is down to the fact that he's just not getting into the box as much, I don't actually think it is. I think it's more down to the chance creation across the chances per 90 that are being created for him. Whereas for someone like Martinelli and for someone like Eddie Nketiah at Arsenal, dominating the possession, getting more chances into the box, especially in the second half of the season. And that's why you're seeing more touches in the box for those two situated. I mean, Martinelli specifically loves to drive into the box, as we know, and try and get as many chances as he can. But what's interesting is when you compare those touches in the box to these actual dribbles, and you're looking at how they dribble on the ball and how they drive towards that goal, Martinelli coming out with much of a higher end here with 5.59 dribbles and a 60% dribble success rate, which is very strong. Yuri Alberto, not the most known for his dribbles, is more of your physical target man type of striker, and a 2.35 dribbles is probably about where you'd expect with a 50% chance of winning those dribbles. He's your target man. You're not going to see too many dribbles from this guy in comparison to someone who's more technical, more sprint focused like Martinelli on the ball. Thiago Tomas coming out at 3.28 with a 55.9%. Again, for a big guy that Thiago Tomas is, that's actually pretty good of a return. So that is surprising. But yeah, I'm not surprised to see the dribble statistic quite low for Yuri Alberto here for the style of striker that he is. If we look at their offensive duels, this is actually a little bit where Yuri Alberto gets let down because he's only winning 31% of his offensive duels. So this is what when you're on the ball, when you're fighting for it, trying to keep hold of possession, link up play, hold up play. 9.26 offensive duels in the games, 31% of those are being won, is not as high as even Nketiah, which is a little bit of a worry. I would like to see that a bit higher for someone that you would look at more as your physical striker. Thiago Tomas coming out with 13.62 offensive duels, which isn't surprising at all. If we have a look at how good they are in the air with their aerial duels, 3.65 aerial duels and only 28.6% won, which is higher than Martinelli and Thiago Tomas, but not as high as the man that's most impressive in this area, Eddie Nketiah, with 4.65 aerial duels per game with a 32% win rate, which again is good, because when you're thinking about the fact of when he burst onto the scene, it was with those goals using those aerial duels against Norwich in that League Cup game. So that's certainly something that I'm not particularly surprised to see that Nketiah comes out very well in. Looking at their passing statistics to round off our look in the statistical area, 16.17 passes per game. Again, these are strikers. They're not on the ball to pass the play. They're in the box to try and finish the shots. 79.8% passing accuracy is fine. It's the second highest on our list behind Nketiah, beating that of Thiago Tomas and Martinelli, but he's down the lower end of the spectrum of pass frequency. And if we look at the final stat we're going to look at today, and something that's actually a lot more impressive of Yuri Alberto, is his passing into the box accuracy, 87.5%. He's only just doing over one per game, but 87.5 pass accuracy. When this guy does want to create a chance for his teammates into the box, he is pretty much hitting the nail on the head every single time, whereas everyone else on this list is much, much lower. And Nketiah comes out with the highest other than Alberto at 60%. Martinelli needs to improve that statistic for me of passes into the box of 43.8. I'd like to see his final product a little bit better as he develops, and I'm sure that he will. Thiago Tomas coming out clearly the worst here at 34.8. He's not your link-up play type. But Yuri Alberto, very impressive with his passing stats going into the box there. So we finish off the show, of course, with the last part of the show, which is your guys' thoughts and feelings about this link, about this possible signing for Arsenal. We're quoted a figure in the region of around 15 million euros if Arsenal want to go and get this guy from International, which is a reasonable fee. To give you my thoughts, whilst I wait for some of you guys to put your thoughts and feelings into the chat box, for me, I don't know why we would sign someone like this. I think he's great. I think he's got real potential, this kid. But we've just signed up following Balogun to a new contract. We've just given him a new long-term deal. The aim is, and you probably saw the report from Chris Wheatley come out on social media today, that he is going to be fighting for his place in the first team next season. If you sign a young striker like this, especially of this age and this type of prospect striker, you're only going to block that route. You're only going to block that path. So it doesn't make too much sense in my mind for Arsenal to go for a striker of this ilk. And maybe they are interested, and maybe it's just a link with Edu, with the links with Brazil there. But for me, it does not really convince me. And that's probably where I sit on this. And I wouldn't personally be sanctioning a deal right now for this one. Only the Frankfurt guy makes sense. Andre Silva, of course, Portuguese striker. He'd be one of my picks if we weren't going to go and sign a striker. Rampur says, why are we looking at this young striker when we need midfield help? I think, obviously, you have to remember that Arsenal have got their fingers in many pies. Let's say they are looking at multiple targets. Just because we're linked with a striker doesn't mean that Arsenal aren't going out and also looking at midfielders, defenders, etc. There are lots of people on the job. There are lots of routes that we are taking to try and get business done. So don't be reactionary in this sense. Why the hell are we being linked to this guy? Because we are obviously doing other deals at the same time. So that's also something that you need to consider. JD says Yuri cost 15 to 20 million. We could have got Eduard, 15 million. Oh, wait, he chose Leicester over us. I mean, Arsenal, I think, had an interest in Eduard. I don't think they really pressed too hard to try and get him. They know that their striking situation is still a bit unknown right now because of the Lacazette and Aubameyang situations. Lacazette could still move on. Aubameyang could still move on. You never know. There's been links with both of those about possible departures. And that might change how we look at a striker. But for me, even if Lacazette and Aubameyang or one or the other was to go, I still wouldn't be targeting a prospective striker. Then I'd be looking at your more prime targets to bring in someone that's going to be that main striker for us this season. Alan says there's no point to sign a prospect unless it was a Haaland level player when he was at Salzburg. Otherwise, get someone proven like an Andre Silva. And this, I would agree with this, is that you do need to be ruthless in the market. And whilst I don't think it makes a lot of sense for Arsenal to go and sign someone like a Yuri Alberto right now, maybe in the future it does. But if you are going to sign a top level prospect, it has to be a game changer. It has to be a defining player within that kind of age bracket. And I'm not quite sure that he is that, and so therefore I wouldn't go for it. However, Richard Barker says sign him up. Richard is very much in the bracket of saying that we should sign him this year. Omar says, is this another Martinelli type situation? I mean, we saw that turn out to be pretty good. If he turned out as good as Martinelli is looking as a prospect, then maybe he'll make me eat my hat in regards to my views on him. Ryan G says, I can't believe this Neves slander I'm reading, Tom. At just 24 is top class. If you want to hear my thoughts on Ruben Neves, we've done a few shows on him now, and you can check them out on the channel. But Ryan, I believe you, and I trust you, and I agree with you, mate, 100%. Questions about random players. T. Irving says, I'd rather get Gabriel Jesus, to be honest. And there was a very loose link to Gabriel Jesus previously. And again, people turn their noses up at that, which I found staggering. Again, I really don't understand the mindset sometimes. But yeah, I think Gabriel Jesus is a great player. And I think that he certainly, with a load more minutes and really kind of the emphasis put on him being the main striker at a team would see him flourish. And I'd love to see him go to a club and get minutes week in, week out to see what he can do, rather than in this rotation. A bit of a toxic situation, I think, for him at Manchester City, with how he's getting so heavily rotated to the point where they don't even use a striker at times. So that's very interesting. Theo says, why are we watching our rivals doing well? For example, Sancho to United, Haaland to Chelsea. Very simple, Theo. It's because they're on a different level to us right now, unfortunately. They've got Champions League football. They've got a hell of a lot of money that their owners and their investors are bringing into the club. They're making more money from being in the Champions League. And so they can do that. Arsenal cannot do that right now. They just cannot do it. It's not, unless we have some unbelievable backing from the owners, which we know is very unlikely to happen. It's just not going to happen, mate. And that's why you're seeing these links to these more prospective type signings at the moment. It's a really sad state of affairs, but it's the situation that we're in at the moment. Vegas Gunner, thank you so much for the donation, mate. It says, Tom, what would you rate a window of Ødegaard, Neves, Van Aanholt, and Max Aarons? No, because I think we need, I'd rate it probably about a 6 or 7. Maybe it's 6.57. The reason why it's that low, even though I think there's some good signings in there, is because we need the Basuma type midfielder. We need that mobile midfielder to come into the club. It also depends on who goes as well. But if you were to sign, say, a Basuma and your Neves and then your Ødegaard for that position, a Van Aanholt to cover, a Max Aarons coming in, then you're looking at the high 8s for me in regards to a window. But a Basuma type midfielder for me is an absolute must, alongside a Ruben Neves for me. So 6.5 to 7, but you need, for me, the more mobile midfielder to make that a real success. Anyway, I feel like we've covered this as much as we can. We're going off a little off topic. We will be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for the transfer show. Please make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here with those notifications turned on, so you never miss a show. We've got some really good content coming up for you over the next week or so as we lead up to the start of the European Championships. The members have been throwing some ideas into the Discord server of things that we could do during the Euros. If you've got some interesting ideas, maybe you should throw them in the comment section and we can try and do that. People were suggesting maybe watch-alongs looking at specific transfer targets. When Portugal are on, maybe we could spend some time watching Ruben Neves, stuff like that. If Arsenal sign anyone, maybe we should be looking at them. So stuff like that. That would certainly be very interesting to be kind of covering watch-alongs, scout reports on certain players during games. So that's something that we're going to look into. It's been a pleasure to speak to you guys as always. I'll see you again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for your transfer update show. But other than that, it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.